And now we're reading from Genesis 25, the word of the Lord. Oh, sorry, that was kind of early. These are the descendants of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel the Aramean of Paddan Aram, sister of Laban the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord granted his prayer, and his wife Rebekah conceived. The children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it is to be this way, why do I live?" So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples born of you shall be divided. One shall be stronger than the other. The elder shall serve the younger." When her time to give birth was at hand, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy mantle, so they named him Esau. Afterwards, his brother came out with his hand gripping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. When the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter and a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man living in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he was fond of game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. The word of the Lord.
Wait for me. My hip. Okay. Slippery up here. Welcome to Egypt. This is Goshen. We've been here for 17 years. My name is Jacob. Most of you have heard my story, bits and pieces of it anyway. And you know, I had 12 sons. If there was ever a father, that was me. Before I tell you the story, long before I became a father, I was a son. Let me start from the beginning. I better sit. Oh. I lived about 200 years before Jesus of Nazareth. You were living I lived about 2,000 years before. If you're 174 years old, many things slip. 2,000 years before Jesus of Nazareth, and you were living about 2,000 years after Jesus of Nazareth. We lived in different worlds. And you know, my father's father, Abraham, had a promise from God and a blessing. And that was passed on to my father, Isaac. But I get ahead of myself. When Isaac married my mother, Rebekah, they went 20 years without a child. 20 years. Lots of praying happened in those days. And my mother, Rebekah, finally conceived. And when she did, there was what seemed to her a battle going on within her womb. And so she asked Yahweh, "What is going on?" And the story is, Yahweh told her, "Well, there's a battle going on in your womb because there are two nations in your womb. You are carrying twins. They are the heads of two nations. And They will fight one another, but the elder will serve the younger. Well, what do you make of that? When it came time for her to deliver, sure enough, twins. My brother was born first. He came out red and hairy. They called him Esau. And I was born second, but not too far behind. I was told I was holding on to my brother's heel as I came out. They called me Jacob. Supplanter. That's what my name means. The one who edges other people out. The one who replaces them. The one who, well, in your language, one-upsmanship, that's me. Well, in my family, we had favorites. I know you don't like to talk about it, but that's the truth. Oh, my hip. My father's favorite was Esau. And that was because he hunted a lot and always had a good stew for Dad. My mother's favorite, guess who? Me. I stuck around. I helped out and watched over the sheep. So, well, one day Esau came home from one of his hunting trips. Oh, he got something all right, a nice game, but he was hungry, famished. And I had Lenten stew ready to go. He said he wanted a bowl, and I said, well, you can have a bowl for your birthright. I was ready to sell, trade one bowl of soup for the birthright. What a deal, what a bargain. Well, you know, the birthright is the right of the firstborn in the family. The birthright allows the firstborn to inherit twice as much property and everything else as anybody else in the family. It's a big deal. Special position. Esau looked at me that day and he said, well, I am famished, I am dying of hunger, and if I'm going to die, the birthright doesn't mean squat. And I was thinking, he might come back later on and say, oh, I was just kidding about the birthright thing. So I made him swear. I made him swear. So he traded his birthright for a bowl of soup that day. And since then, I have considered myself the eldest in the family. After all, I bought it with a bowl of soup. Well, when Esau was 40 years old, I was 42, you know, we're twins. He married 2 Hittite women. Now, these 2 women, Judith and Bathsheba, were wicked women. They brought untold hardship to our family, especially our mother. Oh, was she sad. So much heartache. Anyway, not long after that, Dad looked at Esau one day and said, Esau, you know, I don't think I'm going to be here very long. I want you to go out and hunt. Get me a game. And prepare me my favorite stew. I'll eat it and bless you. Problem was that Mom overheard it. And so as soon as Esau left, she called me in and said, quick, go to the back, get 2 sheep, kill them. I will prepare your father's favorite. And then we'll have you go in there pretending to be your brother and steal the blessing. Well, that was, oh, good old mom. She was a trickster, all right. And I thought I was a trickster. Whew. Anyway, so I went in and prepared the meal. I killed the animals. Mom prepared the meal. And before I went in there with the meal, Mom said, now hold on for a second. You need to go and change clothes. Make sure you smell just like your brother, just in case, you know. And we found some fur for my hand and for my neck. So I went in there, pretending to be my brother. Oh. My father was surprised. Esau, he said, you're back already? I said, yes. The Lord your God was particularly favorable to me today and allowed me great success very early. Lies. They're like peanuts, you know. You can never have just one. Anyway, so my father and I talked for a while, me pretending to be Esau. He enjoyed the meal. He pulled me close. He smelled me. I smelled just like Esau. He put his hand on me and gave me the blessing. He said, my son, may you be blessed with the dew of the earth. May you be blessed with peoples and nations. He said they will bow to you. Give me blessing of land, seas, prosperity of all kinds. And that's how I came to be the blessed one. Well, you can imagine when my brother came home, and he had a good hunting trip that time and brought in quite a game, was in the kitchen just working away, very excited. Went in there. He sat it before my father, and my father, I'm told, was so shocked, he shook, literally shook. My brother found out I had stolen. Well, I didn't think of it as stealing, really. After all, hadn't I purchased the birthright for a bowl of soup? But Esau was angry. He cried for a blessing, and all he got was something really measly. It wasn't much compared to what I got. And Esau comforted himself by saying to himself, I don't know how mother found out, but the word is, Esau said, when our father dies, I will kill my brother. Well, so Mom made arrangements for me to leave the house, to run away to her people. 400 miles away, while we waited for my brother to get over his loss. They packed me up and shipped me off. I traveled a long time. The first day, when it was night, I found a flat stone, put it under my head, and went to sleep. That night, I had a dream. And in this dream, I saw a staircase that connected the heavens to the earth. And there were angels of God coming up and down this staircase. And standing next to me, right next to me, was the Lord. And he said to me, I am the God of your father Abraham and of Isaac. He said, I will travel with you. He said, I will watch over you, and this land that you sleep on today, I will give to you. He said, your descendants will be as many as the sand of the earth. He said, I will not leave you until I bring you back to this place. And when I woke up, I thought to myself, you hear stories all the time about God and doing this and doing that, the God of my father and the God of my mother. And I had never really met this God. I went along, did what they did, but I never really met this God. And that night, I'm here to tell you, that night, he became my God too. And so out of that flat stone, I made a pillar, poured oil over it, and called the place Bethel, the house of God. The house of God. I said to myself, surely God was in this place and I didn't know it. God was in this place and I didn't know it. Oh. It took 7 more days of travel. But I finally reached my mother's people. Name of the town was Haran. There were some shepherds watching over their sheep. And I came up to them and I asked, do you all know Laban? And they said, yes, we do. In fact, he's well. And right up over the hill is his daughter, Rachel, coming with the sheep. Rachel. Oh, Rachel. What a beauty. So I watched her come close. I decided I wasn't going to sit and watch her do all the work, so I helped. I rolled the stone from the mouth of the well, watered the entire flock myself. That was a good first impression. Rachel took me home that evening, introduced me to her father Laban. They were all so excited, so pleased to see me, that here a son of Rebekah had come all the way back to them. And I don't waste much time if you know anything about me. So that night, I struck another bargain with Rachel's father, Laban. What would it take for me to have Rachel as my wife? And he said, well, you have to work for me 7 years. 7 years? Yeah, well, 7 years. No problem, I said. I'll work 7 years. It passed like a few days. So we had the big wedding feast. It lasted a whole week. And in the morning, it wasn't Rachel who was in my tent. In the morning, I found, of all people, Leah, Rachel's older sister, in my tent. Now, don't get me wrong. Leah is a wonderful person, wonderful personality. But the fact of the matter is that her eyelids were a little bit heavy, and after all, she wasn't the one I worked for. The trickster had been tricked. You know, in my family, there's a lot of tricking that goes on. My mother knew how to trick my dad. I knew how to trick my dad and my brother. And Laban certainly knew how to trick me. What goes around comes around. So I asked Laban again, what will it take to have Rachel as my wife? He said, well, you have to work 7 more years. 7 more years. And what choice did I have? So I worked. 7 more years. Finally had Rachel as my wife. So now I had Rachel, Leah, but they came with maids. Each one had 1 maid, so I had 2 maids and 2 wives. And God blessed me with many children. 11, in fact, altogether. For a long time, Rachel was barren and could not have any children. Finally, Rachel gave me a son, Joseph, my favorite. We play favorites in my family. Did I mention that? My favorite son. Finally, Rachel gave me a son, Joseph. And not long after that, I had a dream there in that land of my mothers. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and my God appeared to me and said, it's time to go home. It's time to go home. And I knew Laban wouldn't let us go, so I waited. I waited until he and his men were 3 days away shearing the sheep. And that's when we packed up Rachel, Leah, the 2 maids, and at that time, 11 children. Dinah was my only daughter, all the rest were men. And we left. Of course, it wasn't too long before Laban found out that we had escaped and chased us. Caught us within 7 days. And it would have been a bloody, bloody battle, except that the God of my fathers appeared to Laban and told him not to touch us. And so we talked and hashed things out. And we set up another pillar, poured oil over it in that place called Mizpah. And there we promised each other, Laban and I, that we would not cross that border to do harm to one another. And the next day he left with his men. Wasn't too long after that we finally came to the land of Canaan. Finally to the land of Canaan. 2 things happened when we got there. The first was another dream. It was as if the God of my fathers was welcoming me back to the land that I was promised. The second was a report from the front lines. One of my men came back saying, Esau, your brother, is coming. He's got 400 men with him. 400 men. I crossed over to this land 20 years ago with nothing but my staff. And I was returning with 2 wives, 2 maids, 11 children, and you name it, I had it. 400 men. I was afraid. What would my brother do? For 20 years I had evaded him. What would he do? Well, so the next morning I decided, I would divide up what I had into two. If Esau came and attacked one group, the other group could escape. I also sent presents: donkeys, cows, camels, goats. I sent wave after wave after wave after wave of presents to my brother, hoping to appease him. And that night, I had another dream. And this one was a dream that was different from anything else I had seen. Here was a man who came in and fought with me, wrestled with me. We wrestled all night. He said, "Let me go." I said, "I won't let you go." And we tumbled and wrestled. And finally, he asked me what my name was. And I said, "My name is Jacob." And he said, "You will no longer be called Jacob. From now on, we'll call you Israel, because you have wrestled with people and with God and have prevailed." And he reached out his hand and touched my hip. And that's why I limp today. He was gone in the morning. And when later on in that day I met my brother, he was that far away, and with my sore hip, I bowed down 7 times. 7 times. Before he came close to me. Oh my. And embraced me. We wept together that day. My brother said he didn't want my gift. I begged him, he finally took it. And we parted ways. We parted ways until my father died. Our father died. And then we came together and buried our father. Oh, there are so many other events I could tell you about. There was a rape of my daughter Dinah, and the bloodshed that happened at Shechem. Can't go into that today. Then there was a time when I thought I had lost my son Joseph, because his brothers, out of jealousy, had sold him into slavery. Too long a story today to go into, but suffice it to say, in the end, it was Joseph down at Egypt that saved all of our lives. I am now 174 years old. I don't have much time left. So this is what I need you to do. Call my son Joseph. Ask him to bring his 2 boys, Manasseh and Ephraim. I have a blessing for them. Call my other children. I have a blessing for them too. And when I'm gone, I want you to bury me with Leah, my first wife. Bury me with Leah.